We're gonna do a little tour of Heroku. How many of you guys know what Heroku is? Good, good. How many of you have used Heroku? How many of you are using Heroku right now for work or personal projects? All right, let's see. Maybe we can increase that after today. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you about continuously deploying, managing, and scaling applications on Heroku. If there's time, I'll take questions at the end, but there are also 2 Heroku booths back to back in the center of the space right out here, so come over there if you want to check out more demos, and I'll be over there. I can answer questions there too if we run out of time. I'm Chris Castle. I'm a Heroku developer advocate, and I am CRC at Twitter. So if you really like this, just say, hey, Chris did a great job, and make sure you mention Heroku, because then my boss will see that, and everyone will be happy. So many of you heard the name Heroku. What is it, though? We've been part of Salesforce App Cloud for a long time now. Yeah, I'll help you guys better understand what Heroku is, and we will hopefully get you using Heroku. So Heroku is a platform as a service. Yeah, actually, can you raise your hand if you understand what platform as a service means? All right, good. Yeah, most people understand that. So I've got this big, long spiel about what platform as a service is and the history and kind of the foundations of it, but I'll skip through that because most people, I think, understand that. It is there's infrastructure as a service, so you can think of Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Azure, things like that. This is kind of like an abstraction level lower. Platform as a service kind of sits on top of that and abstracts away a lot of the pieces that you have to do, say, in Amazon Web Services, like installing the image onto the EC2 server, configuring the web server that you're going to put on there, deciding which web server to put on there, like Nginx or Apache or IIS. And so PaaS just kind of takes care of all that stuff for you and tries to make, as a developer, your life simpler so that you can just deploy code, and the build and deploy process is managed for you. So here's kind of a visualization of that. Right now, you have to worry about all these things. Configuration of the server, like which operating system I'm going to use, which web server, database stuff. You have to worry about logging, security, and then kind of ongoing monitoring, right? So that one-time setup is not the only cost, not the only time you're putting into this. It's the ongoing maintenance. If you want to have a 24/7 website, you probably should have someone on call. And then if you have someone on call, you probably need 2 people, or that person might go crazy because they're going to be on call every day, all day, and all night. So this is what Heroku aims to do. Abstract away all those things and make it super simple for you to deploy, manage, and then scale as necessary your applications. So let's look at that. Like, what does that look like? Here's a little CLI, quick CLI demo of what that might look like. Heroku has a command line interface. You guys saw if you were at the keynote yesterday, you saw the SFDX command line interface. They work very similarly. They have similar kind of underlying theory and concepts behind them. So Heroku create is a command you can run here, and you can give it a name, my first app. It's creating an application for you. And then you say git push Heroku master. So Heroku, the main way of doing deployment is through your version control system, and Git is the most popular version control system these days, so we work with that. So you just say git push Heroku master. We detect the type of your app by doing some looking at certain files that are in your application, set up the runtime environment, install the dependencies, and then like that, your app is deployed and live, and we give you a temporary URL that's on the herokuapp.com subdomain, but you can put a custom domain on there, of course. So our customers love that, which is why right now we're serving over 13 billion requests per day. We've got over 6 million apps created, and we have over 150 services on something we call the Elements Marketplace, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And we have customers from startups to, I've been at Heroku for a year now, but I've been a Heroku customer for like 6 or 7 years. I've always loved Heroku, and you've just used it for personal projects. So from personal projects all the way through to big companies like Macy's or Toyota run their infrastructure and their applications on Heroku. So talking about add-ons a little bit, like I mentioned, the Elements Marketplace is where all these add-ons live. Generally, your app is more than just its code, more than just the runtime. You need a database maybe or other kind of supporting services for your code to work with. So for instance, you need a relational database, or you need a document-oriented database, or you need full-text search. Maybe, of course, you need monitoring of some sort. Content delivery to help kind of make the end user's experience even faster. An email gateway, if you're sending transactional emails like thanks for logging in or thanks for registering, here's your info, or notifications of activity, things like that. You want an email gateway of some sort. Log storage. So that's really why you need add-ons. So let's look at how easy that really is. So going back to that CLI, that command line interface, you can, as simply as before when we created the application, you can say Heroku add-ons create Heroku Postgres. You can do that with Heroku Redis. You can do it with Mongo Labs. Found Elasticsearch for that Elasticsearch. New Relic for monitoring. It's a third-party monitoring service. Fastly is a CDN network. SendGrid, and you've got email delivery. Papertrail is a log aggregation, indexing, and searching service. And here's what the Elements Marketplace looks like, the website. It's elements.heroku.com. And it's kind of like an app store, right? So you can look through it and you can see all these third-party services. A few of them, small handful of them are Heroku in the single digits, Heroku provided, but most of them are third parties. But Heroku handles all the single sign-on to use those services. You don't have to go and create another account there and then get another bill from them. We handle all the single sign-on, and we handle the consolidated billing too. So it's super simple to use and to add these on and to set them up and start using them. So let's talk about scaling, right? At the beginning, I showed that graphic that was like deploy, manage, and scale. We've kind of talked about deploy. We've talked about manage a bit with add-ons, and now we're going to talk about scaling. So if your website gets really popular, right, that's everybody's goal, that your business or your website or your product gets really popular. There's going to be a lot more load coming onto your web server or your API server, and you need to be able to scale that. So it's great. Heroku helps you think about scaling kind of from the start, from the beginning of architecting your app, and makes it really easy. So like one drag of a slider or command on the CLI, and you can scale up to 10 so-called dynos, just like this. And I'll explain a little bit more about dynos in a minute. Here is one way of kind of understanding the health of your application, right? I bet your next question is like, well, how do I know when I need to scale up? So we have this is the Heroku Dashboard. Every application has its own kind of view of the dashboard and gets a view of the metrics here like this. So you've got memory usage, CPU usage, response time, throughput, like requests per minute. But let's jump into, I'll do a kind of a real live demo now and hope that the demo gods are working well or looking kindly on me. All right, let's see. Can you guys see that? Does it need to be bigger? If I say, hello. Go a little bit bigger. Nope. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just create a new directory. Let's call it Trailhead X. Make directory instead. So there we go, create a new directory, cd into that directory. I'm going to just make a super simple PHP app. PHP is like the simplest Heroku app you can create. So this is like kind of go back to simplification. But Heroku supports Java, Ruby, Node, Scala, Clojure, Python, kind of all the major web programming languages. We officially support those. And then there's support for tons and tons of other languages like Elixir, Crystal, like other things, but those are community supported. they're build packs created by the community that allows you really to do and deploy any language on Heroku. So we've created a little Trailhead folder. We're going to create a file here. Let's see. Hello, Trailhead, and we'll fix that. So we're just going to create a little index.php file here. So that's it, one simple file. We're going to create a Git repo, Git init. There we've initialized that empty repo. We're going to add that file to the Git repo and say, let's just say first commit as the commit message. Cool. All right, so now we're going to say Heroku create. Remember that command from earlier that we saw in the slides? That was an animation, it wasn't real. This is real. So here's Heroku create. There we go. So I just communicated with the Heroku servers. I created effectively just an empty container that's ready for my code to be pushed to it and ready for the build process to be kicked off. So next step is going to be git push Heroku master. So this is pushing the master branch of my local Git repo to a remote called Heroku. When you say Heroku create, we automatically, behind the scenes, create a remote called Heroku in your local repository. So there were a few warnings there because a real PHP app is supposed to have more than just index.php, but you saw that that went through the deploy process. We found the dependencies needed. We detected that it was PHP, found the dependencies, pulled them in, and deployed that app. And now I have an application over here at, that's the Git repo. Here we go. Here's my URL, right? Come on, little guy. Loading up, hopefully. So it's waking up the dynos. Do you see the hello world? There we go. Hello, Trailhead X. So there's our little simple app deployed live. I think it was slow because all of my Chrome browsers just decided to refresh over here. So it was Chrome that was taking some time. So that was it. Super simple, right? And I can make a change just as simply. So if I want to say, I'm just going to use VI quickly to change that index.php to say, hey, let's add some excitement to this. You know, and maybe even emojis. Can you do emojis in VI? It's probably not safe to try out in a live demo. Maybe. Let's see what that looks like. So I'll save that. I'm going to say git add, everything in there, git commit, -m, add more fun, git push Heroku master. So here's, this is my second change to the app. I've deployed it. Goes through the same deploy process now for the second change. Cool, that's it, it's done. So we go back here, I'm going to refresh this page. And there we go. We got some crazy exclamation marks and the emoji came through, the emoji exclamation mark. So that's it, it's super easy to kind of, that is a very, very primitive continuous delivery process, right? I've just made small changes, delivered, made small changes, delivered. There's no staging, there's no testing, there's no kind of nice setup, but that's maybe where you'd start if you just want to check out Heroku and try it out. Everything on Heroku has a free tier. Almost everything on Heroku has a free tier, so you can try it out by just signing up for free online and deploying an app like this for 100% free. So actually, yeah, let's show scaling. So this is kind of fun. I'm going to, let's see, split screen this. Yeah, let's split screen this and pull it over. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come back here. I have this kind of custom command. I'm going to type Heroku browse, and that's going to open up. No, it's not. I'm going to go to the Heroku Dashboard now to show you what that dashboard looks like. What was the name of our app? Mysterious Forest 29663. So Heroku makes up these kind of fun names if you don't have a name for your app. If you don't provide a name, there's Mysterious Forest. we'll just make up a name for you, so you have a unique name. But you can supply your own name if you want to name it something. And of course, yeah, you can have a custom domain too. So if you come in here in the dashboard, I click on resources. Let's see. If you come over here and click this guy, I get this slider. And so I can very easily just drag this around. So this is scaling right now. You see some information about, let's see if I cancel, do we see it? Oh yeah, we see WebDyno auto-scaling is available now for performance in private dynos. So we do have auto-scaling for the higher tiered dynos that will scale based on how fast your web server is able to respond to requests. So kind of make it even more hands-off and easier for you to manage. So check this out. I'm going to drag this up to like 99 or 100. And then try to quickly switch back to the logs. So you can easily stream the logs from your app. Oops, I need to get into that Trailhead directory and make it a little bit bigger. Let's just look at that. So here these are the logs from my application. I'll just put some blank space there, right? And now if I switch back here and I click confirm to actually make those 100 dynos go live, you can see the event happen there. And here's all the logs that are saying, hey, I'm starting up the web server, the Apache web server for you, starting that simple, very simple, the Apache web server and just serving that one index.php file. And then the state changed from starting to up. So we check to make sure that your process is actually receiving or listening for traffic on a port. And now there are actually 100 containers out there listening on that URL. All the traffic that goes to Heroku's router will automatically distribute them among those 100 different dynos out there, 100 containers. So we can handle a ton of load right now. And so maybe you're asking, well, like, isn't that expensive? If it's on the free tier, you can't scale up like that. So we do have limits on the free tier. But I'm on a tier that I'm using dynos that cost $25 per month, right? So each of those dynos that I just scaled up to the 100, each of those costs $25 per month. But what's cool is that Heroku charges by, everything's prorated to the second, right? So I've scaled up to 100. I'm doing some sort of load test maybe, checking out how my architecture adapts to a huge amount of load and scaling up. Run some tests, see how it's going, let it go for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour maybe. And I'm only charged for the time that I use there. So I can very easily go back to the dashboard here, click edit, and be like, okay, I'm done with my test. Or maybe like Black Friday is over. I don't need all that load anymore. Bring it down to 1, not 0. Let's go to 1. Click confirm. I'll go back here, and you'll probably see all that. There's all the changing from up to down, so it's just killing all those containers really quickly for you, and that's it. So I just deployed a website, made a change to the website, scaled it from one instance of that application, a dyno, to 100, and then scaled it back down all in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That stuff would take a really long time if you were kind of managing all of this yourself in AWS or in kind of an infrastructure as a service provider. Cool, let's get out of there, and we'll close this one. And the Heroku CLI is pretty cool. You should also check out the SFDX CLI, Heroku. If you hit help, you get all this great help information about it, and all these subcommands that are in there. So you can really interact with Heroku through the CLI if you're comfortable there and you like the CLI. You can script out stuff through the CLI if you want to do that, or you can do stuff through that dashboard that we were looking at over here. So you can do all the same stuff over here through the dashboard that you could do in the CLI. All right, coming back to the slides here. Let's talk about a few more things. Heroku Data Services. So some of the add-ons I told you about earlier, I said there are a few of them that are offered by Heroku and managed by Heroku. Most of those are data services. We run one of the largest fleets of Postgres databases on the planet. So we have a lot of experience running and managing Postgres. Heroku Postgres is a really, really easy service to use to not have to worry about managing the details of a database. Really reduce the burden on your DBA or you as a developer or your DevOps person. Another one that's related to Heroku Postgres is Heroku Connect. So this is, Heroku Connect is actually what helps to bridge your Salesforce data to your Heroku data. So if you have a Heroku application with a Postgres database and you have a Salesforce instance or Salesforce org, Heroku Connect helps you set up and manages that synchronization between the two. We're doing demos on that over at the booth if you want to learn more about that or if you have questions about it. Apache Kafka on Heroku was a new release last year, kind of end of last year. So I don't know if any of you have tried to or have used Kafka in the past. It's an Apache project. And me as a developer, I'm kind of, when I see Apache projects as these really powerful projects, but also very complex to set up and tune and maintain and monitor. And we heard that from a lot of other developers. So we have a hosted Apache Kafka service to make it really, really easy to use the power of kind of an evented system or evented architecture. And then the last one is Heroku Redis. So this is a hosted Redis service. Redis, for those of you that might not know, is an in-memory key value store, kind of an in-memory database, maybe. It can be used for caching. It can be used for a lot of things where you want to store state, but it doesn't make sense to write it to a transactional database. So then the last thing I wanted to talk about was Heroku Flow. So kind of for all of this so far, we've talked about deploying, managing, scaling. We talked about those data services there. So those are like hands-on things, right, that you're using to get your job done. Heroku Flow is this concept of trying to further improve or make the development process easier, right? So most software is not developed by a one-person team. Most of it has 2 or 3 or 4, or even if you are a one-person developer, someone else is looking at it or testing it or providing requirements for you, right? So Heroku Flow is we kind of took our approach to making products simple and intuitive and easy to use and tried to apply that to workflow. So let me show you a little animation. I'll probably run through this twice. So I'll let you watch this once on your own, and then I'll kind of narrate it through. So that mostly makes sense. It follows the Git flow or maybe GitHub flow model, where as you're using Git, you have one master branch. That's kind of what's in production is on your master branch. Doesn't have to be perfectly like that, but generally is. And then you create a new branch from the tip of master here. Let's see. I'll see if I can start that again. Yeah. So I'm going to start at tip of master. I'm going to create a new branch for a new feature or bug fix. Make changes and commit, right? Create a pull request for that so I can talk about it and run tests on it and see what that looks like. And then I can make changes to that pull request, changes to that branch over time as I'm talking about it and making it better to get to production quality. Ready to merge, we merge back into master. We can go to staging, then we can go to production, and then very easy to promote to production. So here's what that actually looks like. We've created this it's a combination of, this is a Heroku Pipelines, a view of kind of your dev maybe on the left side, staging in the middle, and then production on the right. And this is actually, I took this screenshot just a couple days ago, and this is a live screenshot of www.heroku.com. Our internal teams, most of them use Heroku to build Heroku. So the internal team that runs www.heroku.com uses Heroku. And this is the pipeline, the live state of their pipeline from 2 days ago. So they have on the left side there a bunch of review apps. Each of those review apps represents a pull request that's kind of active. So each team member can be working on a different pull request, or maybe a team member is working on a pull request and then suddenly there's like a high priority bug fix. You can just let that one sit, make another branch and work on that bug fix as another pull request. And so the review apps are actually apps that represent the state of the code in that branch at that time. So it's kind of cool that, in addition to the GitHub pull request model, where you can have code reviews and look at the code and ask someone to review it for you, and maybe you're using CI like Travis or Jenkins or Heroku CI, you can also take these review apps, it's a live app, and you maybe show it to your product manager or show it to your CEO and say hey, this is what it's going to look like when it's in production. Is this correct? Is this what you want to see? And then when you're ready with that, you just click merge, and that review app goes away completely. It just disappears. It's temporary. Your changes get merged in, and you can set up staging to automatically rebuild. And then when you're ready, you can set up production to automatically go, but most people like to have a manual click deployed to production to just have that final step completely in their control. So that is Heroku Flow. If you want to learn more about that, you can also come over to the Heroku booth and chat about that. So that's it. Come over and see some demos at the Heroku booth. You can get a Heroku mug and some playing cards if you check those out and get your badge scanned. And thank you very much for your time. Any questions? We do have a mic if you do have questions, but I'll be over at the Heroku booth too later.
Does the Heroku Flow or the pipeline support spinning up Scratch orgs using SFTX?
Yeah, so what you saw there is not where your Scratch orgs would live, but we've been our development teams have been and product teams have been working really closely together so that the Scratch org kind of UI will be very, very similar. So right now you cannot, but it is. I don't know if it was something that was in beta or something that's maybe coming, but yeah, that's the plan, to kind of support that visual continuous delivery process with Scratch orgs. Any other questions? Cool, thanks again. I'll be over at the Heroku booth for most of the rest of the day.